Hello and welcome to the exclusive with Producer Grind Weeklies right here. So what I'm going to show you today is how to target anyone in the world using music to get them to move through what we call emotion. Now, the purpose of moving could be to buy something, to get behind a cause. It could be to go somewhere physically. There's science done and scientific research done to where sound can move objects. I know in the Bible it talks about how if you have faith, you can move a mountain. Quite literally, if you have and give out a certain frequency, you can move that frequency. Everything has what's called a natural frequency. So if you vibrate on that natural frequency, you resonate with something else. And when you resonate with something else, you move that thing. Okay. So this is what we're doing when we write songs. We're trying to tap into the emotion. I know you guys hear about Mike Caron's Atlantic songwriting formula and how to do all this. And he thinks like a marketer because the purpose of the song is to get someone to do something, to support some cause, to get behind something, to influence somebody, to make them feel a way, to potentially get them to do other stuff. It's not to change someone else's will or intent. It's to simply move someone. And so in order to move someone, we have to be on their level. They have to see themselves in what we create. There is a formula, and this is the formula that you're seeing right here on the screen. I've literally created a system to where you can target the exact zodiac sign. You can target the exact day to drop in the week. You could target the exact marketing approach, the colors you use on your cover art, your chord progressions, your key. It's all mapped out. Okay, so I have a system that goes really deep. As you can see, this is page 82 of 100. So this is only a piece of the entire puzzle called the Music Theory Magic. Okay, so let's say we wanted to target Scorpios. Scorpios are the most populated zodiac in the world. Okay, so we see to target our Scorpio, Drake's a Scorpio. He targets the world because he understands the Scorpio. Okay, and the magical meaning of this would be transformation, depth, and intensity. How do we tap into that emotion? We use the minor first, the flat second, flat major second, and flat major third in order to tap into this mysterious energy. And once you're done today, you're going to understand that melody is built off of the energy between notes. Okay. The magnetism between the notes, not the notes you use. It's the difference between the notes that creates this energy. And we can pull on that and use it as we like. Truly, music producers are magicians, not in the demonic sense, but in the sense that when we have an intent, we can embed that intent into the music and attract people on that same frequency. It gets very deep. I'll get into tactical FL Studio stuff, and I'll get into higher level stuff as well. So, to target them in a marketing campaign, we would tease the upcoming launches to tap into mystery and use suspenseful campaigns. Okay, so that's how we can literally target this customer avatar with our song and then make a song reverse engineering from that specific point. So it's down to a science. So if you don't believe me, I recently studied the Billboard Top 10. And once you study the top 10 and you really sit there and study the song structure, the messaging, the key, all that type of stuff, you realize these patterns exist on that level as well. Okay, so the first thing we need to understand is intervallic resolution. And I'll send this over to your team here, is that intervallic resolution is speaking about the harmonic series, which is a description of the energy between notes. So in short, when you're writing a melody and you don't know which note is next, this is the system. It's called intervallic resolution. So firstly, I'll let you hear what this sounds like before describing it. So just listen to the resolution. This is made in 3-note pockets. So all that intervallic resolution is satisfying to the ear. And what we can do with melody is create a system or a sequence of notes that satisfy our listener, that create dissonance or tension for the listener, and then we can resolve it. Every great story has a hero. The hero goes on a journey, faces some frustration or some obstacle, overcomes the obstacle, and then resolves it. So we do the same thing with music. That's called intervallic resolution. We also have something called chord resolution. This is for more advanced folks here, but once you build melody and you have chords, the melodic intent or intervallic resolution can actually change based on the chord types and the harmony that we have underneath. So this kind of overrides the individual melody when you add chords. So let's just start from scratch and work through this. Let's say we want to start at the tonic. And let me describe a couple things before we actually get started. There's two primary scales to write in. The first scale is a major scale. The major scale is all the white notes starting from C. Okay, so we have C, we have D, just all the white notes going up. And then back to C. Okay, whereas A natural minor is all the white notes starting from A. And these represent our relative scales. Now, the reason I'm using the word relative is because these have completely different energies. And I'll get into the esoteric part and then we'll pull it back to kind of general speak. The C major scale has an outward sun energy. It has a fire energy. And if you study jazz, you know that they write major as a triangle. So it's a C triangle 7 or C triangle, and that means major. That triangle is represented in magic as the fire energy or sun energy. Sun energy is outward energy. It's a masculine outwardness, whereas the minor is an inwardness, an introspective inwardness. Okay, so what I'm saying is that even though we're using the same notes, we create two completely different emotions based on where we start within this scale. Okay, so understanding that you can get a lot more out of one scale by understanding your relative scales. Okay, you don't need to always change the scale. Maybe you need to change the tuning. Maybe you need to change, where you start within a specific scale. And I'll even go further to say that most people don't know about modes, and modes are basically just starting at different points within a given scale. So using the C major scale here, if I start at D, I create the Dorian mode. If I start at E, we get Travis Scott's scale called the E Phrygian scale. They use that technique a lot. If we, move to the F, we get the Lydian mode. Okay, if we move to the G, starting from G, all the white notes up, we get the Mixolydian mode. If we start at the A, okay, and we play all the white notes up, we get the Aeolian mode. And if we go start at B, we get the Locrian mode. Okay, so we're using the same exact notes, but they all create a completely different emotion. Okay, C major is very bright. Dorian is very, I have scale and mode code charts for you that I'll give you guys for free. And I have all the emotions listed. Phrygian's known for its like trap, Spanishy type of vibes. Lydian, I don't really use much. Mixolydian, I don't use much for hip hop. Aeolian is A natural minor, and then Locrian is more for like film score, video game type stuff. Okay, so every scale has a purpose, but my point is, depending on where you start within this scale, you can create different moods. Okay, so that's the important part, is understanding you don't always need to change your key. Sometimes it's just simply understanding where you are within a given set point. So now let's get into intervallic resolution here. Let's start at C, and let's use this simple guide that I'll send you guys. So let's say we're starting at the tonic, okay? And then we want to go up to what's called the major third. So that's 4 semitones up from the root note. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So C to E. And let's make these notes a little bit closer. Okay. And the next step here is reading where that naturally has an affinity to go. Okay. The major third says generally stable, can move to a fourth or a second. Okay. So we're going to go to the major second. And now let's go to the fourth, which is 5 semitones up from the root. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that resolves the energy. So this is a quick guide on basically where do you go next in the melody. And this is a quick guide for that. So let's get a little more exotic. Let's say we want to use a tritone or 6 semitones up. So that would be here we have the augmented fourth. So this would be here. Usually it's called a tritone. Okay. Resolves outward to a sixth or inward to a third. So let's count up 6 semitones from the root here. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm showing you that it doesn't matter where you start or where you go in melody as long as it resolves. There's no right way to do it. There's no right scale. You can go outside the scale and still sound really cool when writing melodies. So I'm going to give you the permission to go outside the scale. So the tritone here says resolves outward to a sixth or inward to a third. Okay, strong tendency to resolve to a third in tonal music. So let's resolve it to a third in this case, and then we'll resolve it to the sixth in a second. So let's do a major third. Now let's do a minor third. I think the major sounded cooler. And let's use that same technique, but do a major sixth, which is 9 semitones up from the root. So let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is it resolving outward. And the simple way to remember melody mood is if you're going upward, you're creating happiness. If you're going downward, you're creating a sadness. And going back to the relative major and minor, for example, the way you know how to quickly go from your relative keys, whenever you're in the major scale, you go downward in sadness 3 semitones from the root note. So you take the bottom note and go down 3. 1, 2, 3. That's your relative minor. If you're in the minor and you want to go to the relative major, you take the root note and you go upward to happiness and add 3. 1, 2, 3. And that gives you the C major scale. Okay. So it's all the same notes, just starting from different points when I mean relative there. Okay. So let's go back to our example here. So I have to decide, do I want a sad vibe or do I want a happier vibe? Going outward, or do I want an introspective vibe, pulling it downward? Okay, so they all work. It resolves, it's called. So as long as you have intervallic resolution, it doesn't matter what key you're in. Okay, and this is why I teach this first. So let's start adding chords and getting a little more exotic. Let's create a 2-5-1 chord progression. Whenever I say 2, 5, and all these different things, I'm referring to what are called scale degrees. So scale degrees are basically when you map out a scale like this, it's all the white notes starting from C. And to create chords, you grab whatever note you want to start at. In this case, this tonic, we're going to skip D, go to E, skip F, go to G, skip A, go to B. And this creates the 7th chord in this case, C major 7th. Okay, so that's how you build chords. You just skip every other note within your scale. So when I'm speaking about scale degrees, you have the first, the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and then back to the octave, which is C. And what we can do is start on different points to create different emotions. So let's say I want to start at the second here and do a 2-5-1, which is very common in R&B gospel. We're going to start at D, skip every other note, skip E, go to F, skip G, go to A, skip B, go to C. Let me make sure this is recording because it would. Okay, there we go. Okay, and that builds our first chord type. In this case, we're using a minor 9th chord. Okay, now I'm going to move a little bit quicker because this is kind of beyond the scope of this masterclass, but we're going to go to what's called a dominant 9th chord, starting at G, which is our dominant chord of the scale. It's tonic. Then you have your different names per the scale degrees, and you can study that deeper on your own time here. And then we're going to resolve it back because 5 usually resolves back to the tonic, which is the first note in this specific scale. Now that's the boring way to write it. Yes, it sounds resolved, but it's boring. Okay, so let me show you ways to spice it up, give it an R&B feel. You could use what's called a tritone substitution. So it's when you take a dominant chord and you pull it down 6 semitones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The reason this is so important is because of this half step movement here. It's called a walk down. And when it comes to R&B and soul and giving it a soul and a vibe, it's all about half steps. So we're measuring this half step movement. So that's a technique you can apply right now to get really cool sounding chords. The next thing you could do for an R&B vibe is take the fifth and the ninth and pull them up one. So this is sharp 5, sharp 9, dominant ninth, sharp 5, sharp 9, it's called. And now you have a super R&B vibe. Okay, so just showing you little things with harmony. Now, when you have harmony, think of it like a canvas for your melody. So now I like to teach people to think in critical bands. You have the middle critical band, you have the lows, and you have the highs. The middle critical band would be your chords for the most part. Your low critical band would be your bass, like a separate sound as bass. And then your high critical band would be your top line melody. Now, the question is, where do you start? You have all these notes to write your melody. Do you use the root note? Do you use the top note? And my approach when you don't know where to start is try using the top note of a chord, because this is the melodic thing that our ear is actually listening to when we're listening to a chord progression. That's what our ear is truly listening for. So that's where I tell people to start. There's no right or wrong way to start. Okay, so once we're writing a top line, you have to separate the concept of the chord progression, because we can create motifs and individual pockets of patterns, okay? And that would reference E as our starting note. So whenever you're using this intervallic resolution, E would be the tonic in that case. But since we're doing such a tight harmony, we're going to assume that D is the tonic, okay? And then we're adding tones on top of that. So D to E would be the major second. Okay, so let's go to our intervallic resolution here. Go to major second. It says can be stable or resolved to a unison or third. So let's take this note and then go down to the third of this specific chord, which is F, which is a half step up. Now you can add a little more jazz swing, like dun, dun, like that. And now let's do the tonic. In this case, let's do a D, not the tonic. The top note here, start there. And ask, okay, what is D to C? D to C is that major second again. So instead of going to the third, let's go to the unison, which is the actual bottom note here. But we're going to do the octave up here. And now that has a resolve. So now we're not picking random notes. And that resolves. Okay, so the first thing you need to do with melodies is make sure it resolves. There's no rules to melody per se, but most of the time people's melodies sound random is because it doesn't have any melodic resolution to it. Okay, so now let's take this melody and take it a little bit further. Now let's assume that, let's just disregard the tonic of the chord. And now let's look at it only as what it is. So we're taking this E as the tonic, then we go up a half step, which is a minor second in this case. And we have to ask, where does a minor second want to go? It wants to resolve down by a half step back to E, or up to a major second. So let's do a major second, which is just up one. So this is clearly going outside of the scale. I want a little more rhythm to this. So let me give you a realistic rhythm. Okay. And we're going to go from now when I'm measuring, I'm also measuring from the last note that I wrote. Okay. So it's E. We went up to the minor second, and then it wants to resolve to the major second. Now, assuming that we're starting at the major second, we're going to D. So let's count the difference. So you see how I'm starting from different perspectives each time. I started with the tonic of the chord at first, and then the second time around the melody, when adding more notes, I'm starting at the perception that E is the tonic. So F sharp to D, let's count the difference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that is our minor sixth. Okay, so the minor sixth, generally stable, can resolve inwards to a fifth or outward to a sixth. So let's resolve inward to a fifth, which is 7 semitones up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you can pull that note down an octave. let's play just the A for now, and then we'll figure out what we want to do with the C. That sounds cool. Now, going back to the C, let's measure from A to C, which is going to be a minor third in this case. Okay, and also we need to remember we're resolving to a fifth. And a fifth is stable. So from the fifth, you can basically treat this like it's a new tonic at this point. Okay, and then we do the minor third from A to C, and then we need to resolve this. So the minor third can move to a second or a fourth. Okay, so we're going to go from A to C, and then bring it back down to a second in this case. Let's try the fourth. I like the fourth only because it goes upward and it sounds like we're walking back to the tonic of the first chord. So that's how you build melody, knowing nothing about anything really, just following this basic intervallic resolution. It got a little complex depending on where you choose your perception to start at, whether the tonic of the chord or whether just starting at E and assuming that that's the tonic. So those are the two main points there. Now moving forward, I wanted to talk about scales and moods. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my thing here. So pulling up our Music Theory Magic book. Again, there's 100 pages in this book, so it's a lot to get through. So what I'm going to do is kind of jump straight to our scales section and talk about the moods. So we have chord moods, we have scale moods. I'll just start with this chart here. Now, remember, music's purpose is to get people to feel the emotion so that they move, quite literally. And we can have different emotions. So I'm not saying which, most people write, they just pick stuff and then get the result. Excuse me, I'm working backwards. I'm saying, okay, I want this result. How do I work backwards to write this song to get the result that I want? And this is what makes music theory magical, is that I can say, okay, I want to target, my key audience is Scorpio, and I want to target this specific emotion with the song, somber and pensive. Then I would go use the D minor key in that case. Or if you look at Travis Scott's material, he might want to target Virgos, Capricorns, and Tauruses. So he puts out an album called Utopia, where a lot of the songs are in E minor and F minor. Why does he use E minor and F minor? Because it taps into an introspective, moody restlessness. Okay. And then F minor taps into a deep sorrow and depression type of sound. And look at the times we're in. He's making music for the times that we're in. So he's resonating with the outer environment. And he picks the proper scale to match that outer resonance that people have. So this is how deep we can get with music. Most people think music is just like whatever you feel, just do. That's partly true because you're feeling it. But at the same time, is somebody else feeling it? That's the true question. So scales have moods, and minor is an introspective mood. Major is an outward type of energy. But one thing people overlook are these half steps. These half steps basically create the vibe. Okay, so let's do a couple things. Let's start a new chord progression. Let's do a 2-5-1 here. And I'm just going to kind of show you the context. Now, chords are our environment. Okay, so when people leave out chords and just skip over chord concepts, you're skipping a huge part of what makes melody. So let's write this out. Now, what I'm going to do here is go use what's called deceptive cadence. So instead of going to the tonic of C major, I'm going to go to the relative tonic of A natural minor. And that tricks the ear because we expect C in that case. But let's use a tritone substitution, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then revoice this chord so that it walks down in half step. Then I'll raise the 5th and 9th. Okay, so now we're in R&B territory. There's a lot of small things you could do, like use augmented chords. I think what I'd take the G. No, I took the A here. Now, augmented is 0, 4, 8. So that's a major. So I would use 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now you could sharpen the 7th in this case to make that augment. It's a pretty dark sound. Let's pull this up an octave. With the minor underneath. Okay, so this is more of a passing chord. Okay. So there's something called revoicing in music theory. I know I'm kind of giving you guys a lot, but I'm showing you what it takes to get the sound that you're looking for. Now let's dig into some FL Studio hacks, and then we'll go back to the music theory. I want to make sure that everybody is getting a piece of what they expect. Let's go to Tools, go to Humanize. This is a great script for making your melody sound and chord progression sound more realistic. It humanizes the velocity and the timing. Only thing is, sometimes it overlaps notes. So highlight the notes, hit Alt-L, go to Only with Time Selection to make sure those notes don't overlap. Pull this down an octave. Okay, so now let's think about it in bands. So this is the middle band, critical band, then we have the low critical band and the high critical band. You can separate these in instruments as well. But let's, again, start writing a melody. So usually I take the top note of the chord and start there as a building block. You can use your intervallic resolution to help you out. There's no rules. It's just what does your ear hear? And then if you get stuck on a note. So in this case, I went to the minor third. So what does the minor third want to do? It wants to move either to the second or the fourth, meaning the major or minor. It depends on if you're writing minor or major, but to the second. Let's give this a little bounce. Now I'm also suspending this note over the next chord, which adds a nice tension to it. Just little details like this in your melody. Okay, and then we can go. Now I want to start at D. Now I want to go dun, dun. Okay, so this is a this is a major second. So now I would go to my chart and say, okay, major second wants to resolve back to the tonic, the unison or third. In this case, the major third. So let's resolve to a major third. Let's see, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so my ear likes the minor third. So my ears hear more of that minor third jump from E to G. Okay. And so this is a basic way to approach it if you struggle with getting through a melody like a chord progression, when you have really long melodic parts. There's another tool called, I think it's called Melody Maker. If we go to Tools, it's called Melody Jam. And then there's another one called Randomize Melody. Okay. So let's try both of these. Now start on a new pattern. These are new FL Studio scripts, they're called. You may have to install them from the Image Line forum to get these exact scripts. They might not be stock. Let's do Randomize Melody. There are no notes. Pick the wrong thing here. Hold on. Tools. And let's go to, where is it at? Melody Jam. Okay, so this one you plug in values and then you can create melodic structures. This one, I'm not a big fan of. But let's use the randomized, and it takes whatever you played and it randomizes the notes and gives you a melody after. Now this is random. There's no, it's based on whatever they determine the pattern structure should be. So it's not that this will be a great melody, but if you just have chords and you want to make a melody out of your chords, this script could help you get started. Sounds a little like the ending. That's a good idea. But as you see, there's no real intent behind it. It's just kind of doing whatever it's doing. So this is why I teach music theory, because it's based on your intent. What is the purpose behind what you're doing? Okay. Now, the next thing I want to focus on is understanding that, I've kind of hammered it down, which is intervallic affinity. There's certain notes that just want to go to different notes. It's called the harmonic series, understanding tendencies. Okay, so there's certain notes that just want to move in a different direction. So when you hit that minor third, it wants to go somewhere, okay? And it has a defined place that it wants to go. There's no hard rules for that, but it generally, in order to resolve, has a destination that it has in mind. Now, sound selection, let's focus on sound selection for a second. Labs is really good. It's free. Soft piano is really good for like chords and, jazzier stuff. They have a percussion library I think is good. I don't really use much of the other stuff. They have a bass in here as well, bass guitar. That's pretty much all that I've used. The choir one won't load for me, so I got to figure out how that works. And then when it comes to guitar sounds, I like Ample Guitar L. Any nylon guitar is like the modern sound. So this is a nylon guitar. And you could use Omnisphere Sonic extension called Nylon Sky. You could use Ilya Efimov guitar for contact. Let's copy this and put it into the nylon just to see the difference in tone. When it comes to sound selection, really it's based on cultural preference. There's no like science to sound selection, but understanding that when you play guitar string soft versus hard, you get a different harmonic response. The same way if I talk like this, I sound very muffled and low. But if I talk like this, it's very bright and it has more harmonics in it. So the same thing with guitar or piano. The expression or articulation can give you more energy or harmonics to work with. Okay. So this has like special effects in this octave. It went dum. Let's try lowering this down an octave. So I would just change this chord at the end. Okay, but that's basically, now this plugin revoices the chord for you so that you're going to get a different voicing than just playing it like playing it like a piano. Okay, so a couple tools you probably already know. Alt-S helps you strum. You're basically just playing a chord, but just slowed, so it feels more melodic because you're playing it note by note. Now, you can overdo this effect. So one thing I recommend people do is you can write in the minor scales or the major scale. And if you just aren't familiar with other keys and scales yet, you can always transpose the notes and unlock new emotions. So when I hit shift up and shift down to move these notes, now I've unlocked a new emotion. And this is all based on harmony. Okay, so when you really get deeper into melody, you realize that you're really playing a chord just played in different ways for the most part. There's also free libraries. I have, videos on free libraries. There's the Free Orchestra by, I think, Project Sam. There's Impact Soundworks has a guitar one called Shreddage 3 Stratus Free. That's free. There's, I'm trying to think of the good libraries. Okay, those are pretty much the good free ones. Let's build off of this. Let's add another guitar, another nylon, make it like an R&B thing. Now I'm going to show you some FL Studio specific stuff, and use this here. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to use this as a reference. So let's start again using the intervallic structuring here, the resolution chart, to figure out how we're going to go about this melody. So I usually start with the top note of the chord. Again, there's no right or wrong way. It's just where I like to start. My ear here is, now I'm going to use a repetition here. Now, ultimately use your ear. That's ultimately the ultimate guide. But in this case, let's look at why this works. Okay, so I went from the root note in this case up to a minor second and resolves down a half step, or up to a major second. In this case, I resolve 0, 1, 2, 3 to a minor third. So it's not resolved, it's just up in the air. Then I'm gonna go dun. Dun, dun. See how the melody's a lot easier when you have the chord in the background. If I take away the chords, this melody is going to be fighting for its life. Now here I want to add another note, but I don't know which note to add. Usually, again, I teach by ear, like go with what your brain is telling you. But let's start at C sharp and say where we are from D sharp, how far of a distance that is. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're at the minor seventh. I need to resolve the minor seventh. So let's look at our intervallic resolution chart. It says minor seventh wants to resolve down to a sixth or up to a major seventh. So I could either go up a half step, or I could go down to the minor sixth, I believe it's referenced in here, or any of the sixths. Where we at? Minor seventh down to a sixth. It says A. Now I'm going to show you a trick here. When it goes dun, dun, I want to go dun, dun. Like I want it to go up in pitch. So let's click here in the bottom left, the channel pitch, and my head might be in the way, but there's a little thing in the bottom right that resizes your thing here. So your grid should resize. And all I want to do is focus on that first horizontal line. So we're going to take this note, make sure I'm at 0 cents, and then pull it up one block after, just above that first line. Okay, and then we go bring this next one back to 0. Wish there was an easier way to do it. But listen to the pitch here. So it goes ding, ding, like that. And that adds that emotion, that small pitch bend right there. This is how you make third-party plugins pitch bend in FL. Just make sure you reset the other things back to 0 cents, the values in the top left. Let's try the 6, because that didn't resolve the way I expected. And the 6, since this is 10, counting from D sharp, that is, let us, now technically we're starting at F, but let us resolve to the minor 6, which is going to be 8. So 1, 2, 2 notes. That sounds way better. Let me see if I can copy this whole structure here. Paste it over here. That would be so much easier. Let's copy this, Control C. This may or may not work. Yeah, see, it didn't copy our channel pitch value, so we have to retype that in. So, and again, make sure you go back to 0 cents. See how that in the beginning it's now messed up? You need to go back. For some reason, FL, this is a little more different. There we go. You have to reset it back to 0. It goes based off of the last value. And now even more emotional melody. Now in this guitar, we can also go into the settings and change the tuning. So let's change this to 450 hertz. There's no right or wrong tuning. I'm just showing you how you can get a different vibe without changing the actual key or scale. Okay, so let's switch it up to 450. Okay, so now let's add the bass layer. It shows how simple melody truly is. Let's open up. And once you understand the general concept, I should say. Okay. I think people overcomplicate it because we think it's a formula that it's not. It's simply certain notes want to go to other notes. Now, when you're writing your bass line, you can start with your root note of your chords. We're going to use a 2-note bass in this case. So we have C sharp, and we have to ask, where do we want to go with this vibe? So unison is always stable. My ear wants to hear this note. So let's count it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to give us our perfect fourth. I've noticed that with the bass, it's usually the perfect fourth, the perfect fifth, or the octave, or the same note. And those are your kind of go-to. Let's count up 7, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's our fifth. Now that doesn't fit, so let's go to the fourth. Even this note sounds, I want to make sure it's not our automation that we had. Okay, so I'm just going to play the same note. So the same rules for the bass that apply to the melody. So how much of a jump was it from F sharp to B? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a perfect fourth. Let's go to our chart. Perfect fourth says resolves down by a step to a third if it is above the bass. Otherwise, it is stable. So this is the bass. But let's see what it sounds like to resolve down by a step to a third. Which is going to take us to, this is the perfect fourth. I have to write it actually visually so it makes more sense. Okay, so this is the fourth away. It wants to resolve down to the third. In this case, let me see which third did it clarify. To a third. Okay, so let's try the minor. So 0, 1, 2, 3. You can already tell it wants to be major. Oh, also, I forgot to tune this. I was wondering why it sounded slightly out of key. So we need to tune this to 450 hertz. My ear wants to hear G. It's hard to hear these really low notes. If you struggle with bass, pull it up an octave. Okay, that's what my ear hears. It's like slightly out of tune. Okay, so I'm going to leave it on B in that case. Now, most people overlook melodic rhythm. So you can repeat the same note. It doesn't have to change. You can also change the velocity per the note. Okay, and change the length of the note as well. So again, overlooked. Okay, so I'm gonna show you a couple FL Studio specific things you could do. Let's say you want to add a lead sound in here and you want to play the keyboard with your typing keyboard. You can go to lead synth and choose any of these lead synths here. And what you could do is figure out what key are we in. So let's figure out this in Scalar 2's plugin. Now, because we're in 450 hertz tuning, it could be a little more difficult to map the specific scale. So what I'll do is I'll retune these back to 440 just so our ear can match it closer to the Scalar piano. Let's open this up and again reset this to 440. We don't need the bass right now. We can mute the bass. We just need to figure out what key we're in. So in the Scalar, you just record the notes. Then right click delete the notes if it's not. As you can see, certain notes don't sound right. Okay, so it says we're in the B major scale. Okay, so B major is our scale. We're going to right click here on the typing keyboard, go to B as our root key, and then major scale. Now, if I'm making melodic stuff over top of whatever I'm playing, usually I start with the major pentatonic, and then you could use your typing keyboard to like do little riff stuff. So I'll record this. And my ear wants to hear da-da. It didn't even record it. Okay, let's record that. Also, let's record on the pattern. That whole time I thought we were recording. Oh, it did record. Okay, so it's just not showing. This is a glitch in FL. So here's the notes. Now right here, I want to go dun. Okay, and then that's how we can improv over top of our melody. So I think a melody is almost like a three-part solution. You have the chords, which are the foundation, and then you have the actual top line melody, and then you have the ear candy type stuff. And this is like an ear candy counter melody in a sense. Let's open up the bass. Let's pull this bass back to 440. Okay, so now we have a full idea, and again, it has three critical bands. You have the bass, you have the chords in the middle, you have your top line, and then this is like ear candy piece to it. Also, effects give your melody a vibe too. So what I'm going to do is group the melody. There's a billion and one things you could do to process, but I think most people overlook the actual notes that go into a melody, and they try to process their way to a good melody. That can work sometimes. But most of the time, when you have a good melody, you don't really need processing. The processing is just a way to change the genre perspective. Okay, so the first thing we'll do, which is a pretty unique technique, is to run all the sounds through reverb and then half time the reverb. So let's open up another channel. We're going to open up a reverb. Doesn't matter which reverb you use. I'll just use a stock reverb. 100% on the mix level. We're going to send the melody to the reverb and then half time the reverb. So this is great for traps. Let's open up gross beat, go to momentary, then go to half speed. Let me make sure my video is actually recording. Okay, so you got to check every now and again. 50-minute video you guys are getting. Okay, so we're going to send the melody over to the reverb now. And this is a great way to add a dark twist to your melody. What I'll do is I'll turn off the melody output and only let you hear the slowed down reverb. You can also blend the mix level here. So if you don't want it 100% slowed down, you can blend it. Okay, so one more solution. If it's too low pitched, you could use a pitch shifter plugin, or just raise the whole thing, the whole thing in octave going into the plugins. But we'll use a pitch shifter. And now I'll blend back to 100%. Okay, now you can add different plugins like hyperchords to widen out the sound. There's a million ways we could spin this melody here. Okay, so from here, what I would do as a cool effect is record this track, the reverb track. Usually I record directly into Edison. If you're an FL, record on play, hit record. This will lock it to the tempo. So this is its own separate thing. I'm going to record one more time because the volume increases. So that's a cool way to add a new vibe to your melody. Just double click on these time markers, send it to the playlist as an audio clip, and now you have this unique waveform here. Cool things you could do is reverse this sound. You can do a lot of cool stuff to it, like double click. You could right click, open it in Fruity Slicer to give it like a Drake effect, slice it by the beat. Okay. Then you can pull up your attack. And now we can go into the channel rack and paste this. And now move pattern 8 into here. Now you're chopping it up into pieces so it has that stop and go effect once you pull up your attack knob here. And now even more of a Drake vibe. You can also click on this piano icon and go to reverse. You can play the slices in reverse. I think it's a little chaotic in reverse, so I'll just play it normal. Now keep in mind, it's not reversing the audio, it's playing the slices in reverse. If you want to reverse each slice, you would click here where it says reverse. You right click on the slice and then hit reverse. And now you have the actual reverse sound. It's a little tedious to do it on every single slice, but if you wanted that effect. Okay, now you can blend that in with the original. And you can even go in and then pitch this up an octave. Okay, so let's take off these effects. Now you just blend the two together. I'll let the melody play a little bit. So that is, start to finish, how you can start using this to reverse engineer your own melody. So without going into furtherness, that's what music theory magic is all about. It's coming soon to busyworksbeats.com. I want to thank you for watching. It's Game from busyworksbeats.com. Peace.